Hi, folks, and welcome to the More Than Your Labels podcast, where I chat to everybody and anybody who has a neurodiverse condition and those who haven't, and how it either hinders them or helps them. It's their story, their way, warts and all. So let's ditch any label that any of us have been given, and let's stand loud and proud, as we are more than any label. So let's get in more onto the conversation. More Than Your Labels Facebook group, where we talk about mindset, procrastination, where we celebrate all our wins, big and small. See you on the other side, folks. So hi folks, today I'm speaking with Joel, and he's going to tell us his story from his experience with the education system to his thriving business. So hi Joel, welcome to You Are More Than Your Labels. Would you like to tell us your story, please?
Yes, okay. So my name's Joel Buckland. I'm the founder of We Do Stories. We Do Stories is a content marketing agency. And I'm dyslexic. So found out, my parents found out I was dyslexic at a very young age. My parents had a suspicion when I was about 11 when they had a suspicion, but at that period of time, schools didn't believe in dyslexia. And so we didn't have any support from the school at that point. Just one teacher who agreed with my parents were kind of fighting our side, if you like. But it wasn't until high school where it was actually a recognized situation at the time. Still at that point, I remember when I asked my teacher what it meant, and she said it meant you had a mental disability. That means you won't be as smart as the other kids.
How damn rude.
Yeah. I mean, if her Jews, we're talking quite a while ago.
Yeah.
And she may not have realised the situation, but yes, certainly not what you want to hear as a young child. They did the whole take him out of the classroom thing, and so I missed lessons to go and sit in a classroom with other dyslexics, but also troubled kids. So
Yeah,
no matter what, sorry, say again?
I said the same as me. I got diagnosed with dyslexia, I would say, when I was about 14. But then my ADHD diagnosis wasn't until I was 36. Right. So I was placed in special classes because you disrupt the place, or you don't, because you just don't figure out what's going on. It's all a big mishmash.
For me, I was someone that asked a lot of questions. And for some teachers, not all teachers, but some teachers, that was a no-no. So I had a science teacher who refused to teach me. Literally made me face the wall if I was in her class, wouldn't give me a book, and would just carry on doing her own thing. And I think with her, it may have been more than just the dyslexia that she was objecting to. But yeah, so I had that, and I remember being kicked out of classes because I would take notes, and my teacher at the time was one that wanted you to sit and listen when he was talking, and note for taking was, for later on, you'd do the task. You'd sit and listen, then you'd do the task. And of course, as is now recognized, dyslexic people have issue with memory. And so for me, I sitting and listening, and then sort of half an hour later writing everything down, meant I was failing the class. And so I'd sneak in a note here and there just to try and jog my memory later on. And every time he'd catch me, I'd be kicked out of the class for that lesson.
Did you ever doodle?
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually...
Yeah, I did too.
One of my exams, it took me so long to read. It was my English exam. It took me so long to read the text that we had to read and respond to, that I realised I didn't have time to write the response. So I drew a picture and then just did little labels on the picture that explained the responses they were asking for.
Yeah.
And that got me in big trouble in English. And now as an adult, I can go, okay, I can understand. What can you judge if I'm drawing a picture? But yeah, different
I,
coping mechanisms.
exactly. I remember writing a shopping list in a psychology exam. It's just something I had to do just to get it out. And then I started with the exam questions and I was like, hold on, I haven't got enough time now. Hey, it's just something I had to do.
That's it. That's it. And it's that lateral thinking that dyslexics are so good at, actually.
Yeah.
Is that, okay, well, I can't do it this way, but I can do it that way. And of course, it's not always appropriate, but I think it's definitely a benefit.
Mm-hmm. Sure is. So, where did you see it? If you could talk to your younger self, what would you say now?
It's a good question. I would tell them probably to not listen to what people thought at the time. Let them know that actually. So I had a headmaster tell me not to go to college, not to bother trying. You won't get in. And the day I did get in, he said there's one born every day. And so I would probably go back and say, don't listen to any of that. I now have a master's degree. And so back then I wouldn't have believed that was even possible.
So you've proved them wrong, totally.
Yes, yes. Which to me was an incredible journey, but one that took a long time to go on. So I took a number of years out between going to college and going to university because I didn't believe I could do university. And if any dyslexics are listening to this, you can do university. I deliberately chose a course that was more practical than it was written. Still had written elements, but I knew my skill set were in practical areas. But there's definitely ways around these things now.
Most definitely. When I went to uni, should I say, or I too went to uni, I didn't know that there was help out there. I didn't know you could get a reader. I didn't know you could get a scribe. I didn't know you could get bits and bobs that could go on your computer. It was just like the door had opened and I was like, wow, I didn't know I could do this. Didn't know I could have a dictaphone in class or, Dragon Speak or whatever else was out there at the time I was doing it.
Yeah, I remember Dragon Speak.
The only trouble is at the start of that, I didn't understand my accent. But we persevered. We got there in the end. What do you mean, door? I didn't say door. I said dog. Anyway, that's a different issue. So, what are you doing right now? You said you've got your own company.
Yes, I founded Weedy Stories. It's a bit of a journey. But in 2008, I was out in Ethiopia, actually doing some consultancy work with the Ethiopian government. I was working with a charity at the time. I just finished working with a different charity on a Fund for Darfur campaign, which was to help stop the Darfur genocide. And in both of those, I was using. So, as a child, I studied drama. At university, I studied for my BA film and video production, and then for my master's, I was studying transmedia and digital storytelling. And so it's all actually within the communication field, but alternative routes into communication. And so I used those on the Darfur campaign, and I was using those in Ethiopia to talk to the Ethiopian government how they can change their national identity. Because though they were very happy to have had support in terms of Live 8 and Live Aid and things like that, the knock-on effect for the country was a national identity of famine and poverty.
Yeah.
And so, and because of that, that meant trade and tourism and those kind of things weren't as strong as they could be. So we looked at, well, what stories are there that we could build up and tell in different ways that would encourage more business, more tourism, because they had a big business center in Addis Ababa. But so having come off the back of those two things, and having brought together a small team for some of it, I decided to set up a company specializing in telling stories in multiple ways. And so we started off small. A few years later, I met a producer director She was working on broadcast documentaries, and she's now my wife.
Mm. I met my
But
husband at work too.
yes.
That's a different story.
But yeah, from there, she joined Wheelie Stories as well, and we kind of made things a bit more formal, a bit more full time. And since then, we've been running it as a content marketing agency. We do support social enterprises and charities through our work, but we also work with businesses and so on. We've had the benefit now of having worked with Bill Gates, Sir Stelios, who was the founder of EasyJet.
Mm.
We've done some work with NASA and CERN. So we've managed to work, and Leonard Cheshire is a regular partner of ours, or client of ours.
Mm.
So we've managed to work with some big names, which has been lovely. But alongside that, we've worked with some local startups and local gym, chiropractor, that kind of thing.
Oh, nice. So it's one in the eye for the teachers that said you couldn't.
It is, yeah. And I certainly think if I wasn't dyslexic, I wouldn't be running the business I am today. And actually, I think starting your own business is a good path for dyslexic people. There is a lot in terms of the job applications and how to start a career that is quite detrimental for a dyslexic person. Just thinking, so originally, after I'd done my BA honours degree, I wanted to go into broadcast, and I did get in the end, but not through the traditional route, because the traditional route was to become a researcher and a runner. And that took a lot of reading and writing, a lot of admin skills. A lot of the skills that I can do, it just takes me a lot longer, or I have to find other ways around it. And productions move at such fast scale that they're not always willing to adapt in those ways. So, and I think the same for many jobs. Even if you're going for a job in retail, there can be barriers in that job that keeps a dyslexic person either from not getting the job or staying low in the job.
I think from my perspective, I found that I haven't disclosed that I've got dyslexia for the negative reasons of, can't you read? Or are you thick? Or the reasonable adjustments that are out there. They go, it's going to cost me too much. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. Just an overlay over something, or print it in pink paper. It's not going to cost a lot.
Yeah. I know a number of people that still, since then, and it's only been quite a recent thing that I've been so open about my dyslexia, but I know a number of people that in the business world that kind of secretly told me they're dyslexic, but they can't tell their work. Because they're afraid of what will happen in that situation. I think that's a real shame.
It is.
And I think I do personally, and I know the people have different viewpoints on this, I do see dyslexia as a disability in some ways, but I also see it as an advantage in other ways. And I think there are tools we can use to help us cope, much like any disability and things. So, and I don't think it's too much of a stretch to get those tools. So it's a shame that people feel like they have to hide that when actually by embracing it, I think workplaces can actually really benefit.
Exactly.
The natural thinking, I think, that dyslexics have, that sort of thinking in different ways to the norm, is a real benefit in the business world.
Because we think on our feet, out of the box thinkers, see it from a different perspective. And when I've come up with ideas, it's been a bit, how come you've thought of that? Why didn't I think of that? So, and you're just like, anyway, why do I bother?
Well, we've deliberately embraced some of this stuff as a company to try and, not only because of my need of doing these things, but also as a company, we want to be disability friendly. We want to make sure we're pushing forward with that. In fact, a large percentage of our team identify as disabled in one form or another. But we have a booking calendar on our website, and that to me, that's something I've been using personally for years. We decided to make it public, so people can book meetings with our team at any point.
Mm.
Well, that goes straight into our calendars. We don't have to try and remember it. We don't have to try and do the admin that's involved with booking that meeting. You can literally just choose the time and date on the calendar, and we get an alert on our phones, on our computers, whenever we need to be in a meeting. It lets us know it's coming up, and it also lets us know it's happening now. You need to be there. So just tools like that are a real benefit to working with dyslexic people. We use tools. So I use dictation tools when I'm writing. I use Grammarly for checking my grammar. I also know my strengths and weaknesses, so I've hired in the right team to benefit me up there. So people in the team with better writing skills or better grammar skills. But there's always going to be times when I'm going to have to do some myself as well.
Yeah, and that's where the procrastination comes in of like, I need to do this. But then I just jump in, and the uncomfortableness is there, but I still just jump in and have a go.
Yep.
And if I fail, but hey, I've had a go.
Yep. And again, I think, I tried starting my first business when I was 16. So I've been quite lucky in the fact that I've embedded myself in this world. But the idea of failure can be such a positive.
Yeah.
So for me, particularly in the business world, I can see the times where I've tried to start business. First business when I was 16, I was working in a fish and chip shop, and I tried the owner of the fish and chip shop was going to sell. He was moving back to Cyprus, and so I went to the local bank, asked them if they could show me how to write a business plan, and wrote a business plan to buy the fish and chip shop. Turns out at 16, no one wants to lend you money. So who would have known? So yeah, I didn't end up buying it, but I learned a lot from the experience. And so it can be seen as a failure. I didn't get the business off the ground, but I learned so much that I don't think I'd have the business now if I hadn't tried doing it then. And so as soon as we stop fearing failure, so you asked earlier, what would I say to my younger self? That's one of the things I think I would talk about is don't fear failure, embrace it.
Definitely. Because I've had multiple, I'm going to try this business, I'm going to try that, I'm going to do this. And because I've already planned it in my head and I've already seen how it goes, by the time I've gone backwards to start it, I'm like, I've already done this. When I haven't done it. In my head, I already have, which is a bit of a thing for me. So hence, this is why I started this podcast of, I didn't think, I'm just doing it. If I think about it, I wouldn't do it. So I've just jumped in and doing it.
It makes sense. And sometimes that can be the thing that stops when you think you've thought about it and it feels like you've done it. Yeah. And so your brain moves on, you don't remember it. And then you come back and think, oh, I didn't actually do it. I was just thinking about all the ways I could do it. That can be a massive stopping point. And finding ways. And it's interesting. So what made you think, I'll just jump into the podcast then?
Well, I did a podcast day and then I was just like, I'm doing this. I don't know. Maybe I had that aha moment. Maybe I had a change of mindset. I'm just doing it. I'm not thinking about it. I'm just doing it. Bit bizarre, but get the word out there that people like us are worthy, are valued, can contribute. Because I was a bit sick and tired of the negativity, to be fair.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought I'd start it. And then I was listening to other podcasts that were a bit negative. So I was like, something needs to change. So here we are.
I mean, you and I met on a Facebook group.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to see the discussions going on there between who feels like dyslexia can be a positive and who feels like it's definitely not. And it really does come with its struggles, but it really does come with so many gifts as well.
Yeah.
I just think we live in a society that doesn't necessarily raise these points as gifts. And that's slowly changing. But I think,
it needs to change quicker.
It does.
A lot quicker.
But there are, I mean, one of our clients is Leonard Cheshire and Stelios Foundation, Philanthropic Foundation, work together every year to do an awards ceremony where there's sort of cash prize awards, but for disabled entrepreneurs. And it looks for businesses and dyslexia and things like autism that often comes alongside, and ADHDs. These are considered disabilities, so there's no reason that people with these can't apply to those awards. And I think I may be wrong on this. Don't quote me on it, but I think overall, to multiple different businesses, something like 100,000 spent on award money. I think the top prize is 30,000, and these people, all different walks of life, and a lot of them do choose to have businesses that have social impact, but they don't have to. But so for me, when we were talking about things changing, to me that's a real positive. Of hang on a minute, there are people out there recognizing that people with disability, including dyslexia, can actually give a real positive, can run their own businesses, and when you run your own business, it's not just the change that you're making in your own life, but the impact you're having on our economy in the country, on as you grow your employees and so on. There's a really positive knock-on effect that you can have. But there's people out there recognizing that and saying, actually, we want to champion you. I think the top prize also gets some form of mentorship with Stelios. And again, don't quote me because the rules change from time to time. But I think a lot of people are saying they really benefited from the time they spent with Stelios.
Oh, that's something to bear in mind for anybody that's out there that is thinking of setting up a business. See, I don't know where this podcast is going to go. I'm just going with the flow at the minute. So we'll see. Yes, okay, I'm winging it. But hey, if we have structure, it doesn't work. So if anyone wanted to contact you, what's the best place to contact you or be involved with you?
You can either go through the company, which is wedostories.com, or if you want to reach out just for a chat, I'm on Twitter at Joel Buckland. It's JoelBuckland. Or to be honest, if you search Joel Buckland, I come up in a lot of places. But Twitter's probably the one I'm most regularly on.
Okie dokie. Thanks for that, Joel, for joining us today.
All right.